Hello and welcome to part 2 of the MURO drawing tutorial. Now, what we're going to do in this part is learn how to draw grass. Now, what I want you to do is add a new layer and label it grass, and make sure you do, because by the end of this you're going to end up with a ton of layers, and if they're not named then you're going to have a lot of trouble editing after. Right, now what I usually use for grass is the webbing tool, purely because you can alter the webbiness on it, which gives the grass a more sort of varied tone when you draw the line. Now, you won't really be able to see it in the video because it's too small, but when you do it yourself you'll see what I mean. The higher the webbiness, the more sort of thickness it'll have when you curve the line. And make sure the size is about, well, is small, because you know you don't get huge blades of grass running around. Obviously the closer the grass is to you, the bigger it will be, and I think in a minute I'll put some big blades of grass in the front so it looks like they're sort of in the corner of your eye. It just gives it a bit more depth there. So add a new layer and just do some huge strokes, just randomly. Make sure they go off the edge of the screen now, so look that they're just sort of hovering in the corner of your eye. And what I'm going to do after this is blur it so it looks like it's there but not exactly in your line of vision. It just gives the picture a more sort of interesting feel when people look at it. Now, what I'm going to do first, before I blur it, is add a few yellow flowers onto it, just to make it look more pretty. And there we go, just do a few dots on the ends, because it also makes the grass look like it's not just going upwards, it's going outwards and away from you as well. And this kind of works better when we do huge fields of grass rather than just a few giant blades of grass, but it is alright for this. Now, once you've done this, we're going to blur it. There we go. Make sure you do blur more, because if you do normal blur, it's not going to blur enough at all, and you'll have to blur it quite a few times, whereas blur more will blur it a lot instantly. There we go. Now it's lost some of its sharpness and it just looks too monotonous, so what you want to do, monochromatic. Now, what you're going to do now is add a few dark, oh that's a bit too dark, hang on. Make sure the opacity is quite low. Add a few darker strokes to it, just to give it more of a sort of a more volume. There we go. And we do it on the other one as well. Okay. Now we're going to go back onto the normal grass, and remember in part 1 of the tutorial we mapped out the lighting. We did that because now you can pick the colour which is the lighting colour and the grass colour combined, so you can do grass with lighting on it. If you look, well, you can't really see it because the video is small, but if you look, the grass that we're doing now has a slightly yellowish tinge to it, which makes it look more like there's actually the lighting shining on it, whereas if you just did normal green, it wouldn't have fitted in with the picture at all, really. So, just do, because it's in the distance, you just want the brush size to be really, really small. And we're back to the webbing brush again. I'm not going to do the grass everywhere because that would just take too long. You don't always need to do the grass everywhere, really, because you just want to give the impression that the grass is there, if you get what I mean. And you can just do it in a few spots and it'll still give the same effect. as the grass comes towards you, it'll get darker, but I've done that a little too dark. You want it in a sort of a gradual colour change. That's it, just cover that up because it was too dark. Just make it so that there's like a few little grassy bumps on the edge of the, well, I guess it's a cliff really. Just give the impression that the grass is there. That's it, just to do a few more squiggles. It takes a while, but if you think about it, the end result will be pretty good. Just do a few more around here, and okay, so now what I'm doing is I'm going back to the grass that I did around that rock, and I'm just going to add a few more. Oh god, that's too dark really. I'll add some light into it in a minute. You're just adding a bit more depth to the grass around the rock, rather than just leaving it one colour. That's it, add a bit more light, and make sure the opacity is not too high when you do lighting on things, because else it will just look like yellow grass really, and not just lit up. Okay, that's nearly done. Right, now what we're going to do is add a new layer, and I haven't named it yet, but name it like plants or petals or whatever you want, just as long as it's to do with plants. And what we're going to do is go to the splatter tool and make the size really small, because the flowers in the distance are going to be just almost too small for you to see. But when they all come together, it's just like a huge patch of flowers in the distance. It adds more eye candy to the picture, I guess. It makes it look more interesting to look at because there's more in one picture. Now, as these plant things get closer to you, they're going to get more. They're going to get bigger and spaced further apart. So you can put the size up gradually as you go along, and keep the density about the same. Don't change the density. Just change the size as they get closer to you, and make sure they're scattered further apart as they get closer. That's it. I think the picture looks more interesting already. You try it out and link me to your picture. I don't mind seeing work in progresses. I want to see some work in progresses of your pictures. Now, I'm just adding a few white bits as well. I mean, you don't have to add it, but they could be daisies or something, I guess. Okay, now I'm just going to add a few more strokes here and there around the rocks. I always do longer grass around the rocks, don't ask why. Now what I'm going to do is do some bluebells. These are just going to be placed randomly now, basically what you do is you get the web brush and you just do like little stalks, just one quick stroke for a little stalk, and then you go to the splatter brush and you put the density, you put the density up to about 16%, I guess. Depends where you put in the bluebell. The closer you are, the bigger the density will be. And just do some purple dotty splattery things on top of the stalks to make it look like the little bluebell ball things, if you've ever seen a bluebell. I mean, they don't have to be bluebells, you can make them into whatever you want. If you're doing some sort of alien planet, they could be black with red stripes. Now, that's the end of part 2 of the tutorial. Part 3 will cover the detailing in the ruins, and we'll also be using the splatter brush again for awesome ivy effects and things like that, so stay tuned more.